Iceland just announced that every Icelander over the age of 18 automatically become organ donors with ability to opt out. How do you feel about this? As long as I can still taxidermy my body when I'm dead, they can have my organs. I'm with Sean Locke on organ donation. Go for it as long as all my organs go to the same person, so it is less of a donation and more of a hostile takeover. If more than 50% of your body is transplanted into someone else, you'll absorb their consciousness into your own and take over the new body. It's science. I love to see a film or a book with that concept. I can vaguely remember a thriller, horror movie where a girl gets an eye transplant and gets scary visions from the eyes of the donator. Edit. The girl in the movie is Jessica Alba and the movie is called The Eye. Did they steal that from The Simpsons? Where Homer gets a hair transplant in a Treehouse of Horror and becomes Snake? Actually, it goes back further than that. The Treehouse of Horror segment, Treehouse of Horror 9 from 1998, was inspired by an Amazing Stories episode, Hell to Pay, from 1986, directed by Empire Strikes Back helmer Irvin Kershner, though immediately a weak episode, with a largely similar plot of a haunted toupee, which was itself in turn inspired by a great Twilight Zone episode, Dead Man's Shoes, from 1962, about a pair of haunted shoes taking over a homeless man's life. There was also an XFiles episode of A Haunted Tattoo, Never Again, from 1997, with a similar premise where the tattoo has its own personality, voiced by Jodie Foster no less, and makes the wearer do things. The Eye is notably different in the sense that the protagonist doesn't act like the original person the eyes belong to. It just makes her see ghosts as the eye came from a psychic. You know exactly how Reddit feels about that shit. OP has just made a post for the sole purpose of farming karma. How do you feel about this? You know exactly how Reddit feels about that shit. These how do you feel questions about popular opinions need to be banned. How do you feel about clean water being provided to everyone free of charge? Getting really tired of this Reddit. How would you feel about X scenario that has been permanently supported or opposed on the site since its inception? Questions. Redditors of Reddit, how would you feel about politicians no longer being corrupt, the North Korean government shutting down a cure for cancer? Meh. But what if we took loot boxes out of video games? Holy shit! Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? I'm really proud of this community right now. My organs are free for all if anyone needs them. Alright, please lie down over there. Think lungs now, Jill's come in 2 weeks. It's interesting because this is actually very similar to their state church system. Icelanders are automatically registered as members of their mother's church upon birth and have to opt out if they don't want to be registered as a church member. My Icelandic friends and I call it Christian by default. Leads to a lot of interesting cultural and religious views of what it means to be religious or not. Most people don't unregister, but just never go to church. And the churches registered with the government still receive money from the state for anyone registered as a congregants or members. Churches receive roughly $7 per month per registered individual, regardless if they regularly attend or not. Only in recent years have people started to actually bother unregistering from their churches. As long as the ability to opt out is easy and evident, I don't care. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes, everyone. I really didn't expect my opinion to be appreciated by so many people. I did read most of the comments and responded to some. It seems a lot of people can't think of a reason to opt out. The only answer I have to that is everyone has their own view on life and may have different views than the majority. I feel like that's the mindset of most people. They just don't care, so might as well do something useful. There's an interesting book called Nudge, which discusses decision architecture. Basically, you can manipulate people into making the decisions that you want them to make by changing the order in which options are presented or by making your desired option the default. It's really interesting, and this is one of the prime examples that the author uses. Countries that have opt-out systems versus opt-in systems have significantly higher donor rates because people simply don't opt out. And trusting of what's presented as the default choice. Indifference and trust are not the same thing. It's super easy. You do it online. I just tried it, and after signing into the site with two-factor ID, it was literally 4 clicks. I didn't actually register as a known donor, just checked how it's done. Can you opt out from specific organs? Yes, also super easy. There are 3 options. Donate as default. Donate except for specific organs. There is the text box where you list the organs. And don't donate. They're only allowed to have 1 testicle. The other is sacred. They're a package deal. Both must go to the same person. There seems to be this weird stigma that people have where they think that if they are an organ donor, and the ER folks see that when trying to save their life, that for whatever reason they'll half-ass it so they can get their organs. I've never understood it, but this seems like a good way to handle that. Let people choose not to be helpful post-mortem instead of them having to choose to be. Yes, it's a BS argument to say that doctors will let you die to harvest organs, but wouldn't let the transplant candidates die for their organs. Doctors are trying to save everybody, not picking and choosing who gets to live. They won't let you die when they could save you. There's no guarantee the organs will be a match or successful in transplantation. Plus, they open themselves up to criticism if every patient they attend to dies in ER. Organ donation isn't using you as an organ factory. It's saying, well, they've died, but they were willing to save people with the organs they no longer need. So let's honor their wish and not let their death be in vain. When I was learning to drive, my parents warned me over and over that they're going to ask if I want to be an organ donor when I get my license. And I need to be sure to say no, or else I'll be left to die if I ever get injured and go to a hospital because it will make them lots of money to harvest me. That's nonsense, of course. They let me die because I don't have insurance. Christ in American. I don't know, my heart's just not into it. Edit, on a serious note, it's a great idea. I don't know either. Just guts feeling, probably. Edit, I too think it's a great idea. I'm gonna be dead, don't care what happens to my organs at that point. Smart idea. If you care enough not to be an organ donor, you can just opt out. This just increases the pool by adding the folk who don't care. I do believe there should be a clause added for those who could not reasonably be asked to give consent in the first place. When I die, I'm seriously thinking of going to donate my body to science route. Would be comforting to think I'm being of some use. And if my family wants a part to cremate or bury, they can have food or something. This is what my grandmother did. You get more than a food or something. I'm not sure what's permanently removed, not my field. I do know it took about 3 years before we got ashes to bury, so they take their time with the cadaver, that's for sure. I am the one who actually laid the ashes in the ground, never forget it. She likes beer and chocolate, so we all had a bit of that at the service in rural Nova Scotia, Upper Stuyaki, with about 15 people in plain clothes, no preacher or strangers. Anyway, don't know why I got into all of that. My mom had no will or anything when she died last year, so we had to make the organ donating decision. We did, and her liver was a match for a 53-year-old man. I hope he's recovering well. The lady who came to talk to us said that that mentality doesn't make sense because they need the organs to be healthy to donate, and they want to be able to use as many as possible if you're a donor. So it doesn't make sense that medical professionals would take worse care of you if they know you're a donor. Sorry for your loss. It can be tricky though. My cousin was stabbed in the head, and deciding to pull the plug and donate his organs really pulled apart the family for years. It didn't help that the counselor of sorts seemed like a sleazy organ dealer who really lays it on heavy that your loved one doesn't need them anymore. In this moment of trauma, it becomes not about you, not about your loved one, but about other people. It's rough. I trust the doctors when they say your loved one is brain dead, but when their body is there breathing and his head swollen, part of you doesn't understand why you can't just wait longer, hope longer. See him lose the swelling and maybe give you just one more look before you give up on them. ATA, and just to be clear, I think this bill is a good thing and I am a donor myself. It's just a sad affair sometimes and more complex than it seems.